Hi, as I mentioned before, and through multiple requests, I'm going to articulate a 10-year plan that will revive the UK and restore dignity, safety, and prosperity to its people, to achieve a safe, prosperous, and democratic United Kingdom with freedom of speech and based on British rule of law, with significant and independent global influence and a close ally of the US, Canada, Australia, and selected European countries. Why? Because we don't have a plan and we don't have a vision. The Labour government do, however, based on its Fabian objectives of a communist state, removal of British identity and values, state control of people and assets, and they've almost achieved success. They need to collapse the economy, they need to create division, and they need to engender racial hatred in order to achieve their objectives. So they're not going to stop doing what they're doing at the moment. This is akin, in my view, to Marxism, Nazism and fascism. And it is the greatest threat, in my opinion, that we have faced since 1939. And it's not only unacceptable, but it needs to be stopped in its tracks, and we are running out of time. I do not believe that a majority of Labour politicians, Liberal Democrats, Greens want this. I know that a vast majority of British people, if pushed, will fight to stop this. I also know that the Muslim extremist community will exploit this in order to implement their own unacceptable objectives when the time is right. What I'm going to say may sound extreme to some, particularly those that are left-leaning, and certainly to those on the Islamic extremist side, but this will result in restoring British identity, a robust rule of law, and a democracy that will enable equality and multiculturalism to flourish in peace and the nation to prosper. Putting it bluntly, I believe we need to man up. We need to learn how to fail. We need to stop being offended by words. We need to celebrate success and entrepreneurialism. We need to work for a living. We need to restore family values. We need to embrace, promote, and be proud of being British. We need to protect and support our minorities, compete and succeed, love thy neighbour, and we need to enjoy and express our freedom. It is not racist. It's not Islamophobic. It's not homophobic. It's not Nazism. It's not fascism. Indeed, it is exactly the opposite. And also, one point to note, we will have to sustain a global economic crash within the next 12 months. We'll have to sustain another pandemic, probably within the next 5 years, and we'll also have to control the rise of artificial intelligence. And potentially, we're also likely to be engaged in international conflict of some description within the next 10 years. So we've got to sustain this as well as trying to sort out our own country. So I'm going to articulate a 3-phase, 10-year plan starting from now. I'm not going to talk about how we do all these things. I'm articulating what needs to be done, in my opinion. Okay, so I've got a 3-phase plan. And the phases are: phase 1, intervention; phase 2, recover or recovery; and phase 3, revive or revival. So phase 1, intervention, and this needs to happen within the next 2 years. We need to dissolve the Labour government. We need to remove the Labour government from power, not individuals, the government. We need to sustain our refusal to accept digital ID. We need to peacefully protest, petition, and if necessary, strike. We need to demand transparency from the government and the establishment at all times. And then we need to elect a government that has the integrity and the leadership to take us forward. Now, this is going to require unity from all sides of the political, the religious, and the cultural spectrum that do not wish to exist in a communist state. And I believe that is 99% of people in this country. Phase 2 is the recovery phase. So this will follow the intervention phase. And this involves change. And I know people are fearful of change, but it has to happen. It will require review and reform of the entire establishment, and it will require executive action. In some cases, action that may be fearful to certain parts of the community. This will take, I predict, about 2 to 3 years to be implemented by the next elected government. Okay, so firstly, we need to overhaul the establishment. And I'm talking about reviewing, cleansing, reforming and rebuilding the civil service. And from there, the public services. And I include the police service, prison service and the National Health Service. We need to remove quangos that exist and we need to doge the current government structure, because there's huge inefficiencies in the way we run things at the moment, irrespective of the political party that's running it. We need to review the welfare and the benefit state, and we need to have an overhaul of our national media. The judiciary. We need to leave ECHR. We need to repeal international, European and British laws and acts. For example, the Online Safety Act, laws regarding hate speech. We need to ensure the integrity of the Northern Ireland Peace Agreement. We need to remove DEI from every part of society. Ban Sharia law. We then need to establish a British rule of law to establish equality, human rights and freedom of speech. No tolerance, zero tolerance for corruption, crime and terrorism, and harsher sentences for perpetrators. Immigration. We need to close our borders, and this has been well documented. We need to deter, detain, deport and reallocate those resources for our own homeless. And I include with that both illegal immigrants and those awaiting asylum or indefinite leave to remain. We need to rationalise the legal migration system and the asylum system and overhaul it. We also need to establish a hard line, and I've mentioned this before, carrot and stick approach, foreign policy with our migrant countries. We also need to incorporate our veterans community to assist in helping this immigration policy. We need to impose a security crackdown, and this is the thing that's going to make people fearful. Anti-terrorism, anti-crime and anti-corruption. And this will be zero tolerance. We need to empower the intelligence services, the security services, the police and the military, and we also need to supplement them with our veterans community. We need to prescribe and deport, imprison extremist political groups and anything that involves radicalisation or intimidation. We need to arrest and deport or imprison all associates and perpetrators of terrorism, crime, and I include violence, theft and fraud, and sexual crime, specifically, for example, the grooming gangs. And this also includes all of those who have covered up historical events or who are covering up at the moment. We need to smash the international human trafficking crime, and we need to do this in collaboration with our European partners and with the United States.